The hardest part of walking away is always the first step. Okay, that sounded way more dramatic than it probably should have. I mean, it sounds like something you tell someone who's trapped in an abusive relationship, and not
Pokémon Legends ZA, available October 16th, only on the Nintendo.
There's a stereotype about Pokémon fans being blind consumer zombies who will, without an ounce of scrutiny, hand over their hard-earned free time and money for literally anything that even remotely resembles a game, as long as it has Pokémon. Pokémon has been a part of my life for longer than it has not, which, considering I picked up my first Pokémon game at age 17, well, that's a hell of a lot of years and a hell of a lot of games. And at this point, Pokémon games feel to me like something you just do. A new game comes out and picking them up and playing them feels about as regular as the changing of the seasons. You don't ask why, and you don't consider whether or not you will purchase and play them. The only question is when you will be able to make time for them in the chaos of an ever-evolving lifestyle. Well, I'm in my 40s now. I have a career, a few hobbies, including this channel, thanks for the role that you play in that, by the way, a wife that I love, and people that depend on me. And for the first time in as long as I can genuinely remember, a Pokémon game has been released that has caused me to ask the question, why? Why exactly would I buy this? And why would I spend the hours of my time in this mortal coil playing this? It's a question you start to ask yourself more and more as time trudges on. I'm not the sort of person who thinks gaming is nothing but a waste of time. Video games are easily the most dynamic, interactive medium for entertainment that I've had the immense pleasure of watching evolve over the course of my lifetime. But at a certain point, any game imposes the singular question on us as players. Am I really worth your time? Am I really worth your attention? The Nintendo Switch era has been an interesting one for the Pokémon franchise, making the permanent leap to consoles with generations 8 and 9, remakes for Gens 1 and 4, and now 2 Legends spin-offs. And in order to take complete stock of these past 10 years, I wanted to show you what I was thinking when these games were released. Pokémon Let's Go Eevee? Well, it's a Gen 1 remake and I don't love the art style, but it's a chance to play a main series game on a console. I gotta play that. Pokémon Sword and Shield? Well, it's a new generation. I gotta play that. Pokémon Brilliant Diamond? Well, it's a remake and I hate the art style, but I get to play Gen 4 on a console. I guess I gotta play that. Pokemon Legends Arceus? An open-world game with a new art style that looks like Temu Breath of the Wild and region-exclusive Pokemon? I gotta play that. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Well, it's a new generation. I gotta play that. Pokemon Legends ZA? If you've been paying attention to how this game has been received at all, you should already be familiar with the list of complaints about Pokemon Legends ZA. How the game is tiny, how the world is shockingly undetailed, and with not a whole lot to do. How the game cycle is bloated by lengthy tutorials that make it seem like the game will do anything but let you play the game. How there's nowhere to explore and really not much of a game for $70. And speaking as one of those die-hard, blindly consuming, no questions asked Pokemon fans, I see it all. But the thing about us die-hard, blindly consuming, no questions asked Pokemon fans is that we will forgive literally any of a game's problems as long as it has the one thing that Pokemon Legends ZA doesn't. New Pokemon content. See, I think the formula works like this. The more new Pokemon content a Pokemon game has, the more Pokemon fans are willing to forgive the game for its overall shortcomings. Going back to Pokemon Legends Arceus, the game introduced 8 new Pokemon to the National Dex. Weirdeer, Cleaver, Ursaluna, Basculegion, Sneasler, Overquill, and Enamorus, who are all derivatives of previously known Pokemon, as well as 19 region-exclusive forms. That isn't a lot for a full-price Pokemon game, yet it was received well by many fans for its open-world, unique mechanics and feeling of adventure. Pokemon Legends ZA, by comparison, introduces exactly 0 new Pokemon, 0 region-exclusive forms, making the 26 new Mega Evolutions the only, and I'm using this word generously, new content. And since that's the only thing preventing us Pokemon fanboys from seeing the game for its piss-poor quality, now that we see it, let's talk about it. For much of the game's history, reading text instead of hearing it spoken just feels natural. I mean, these were handheld console games, which is to reading a book what playing on a console is to watching a movie. So just as you read a book and it says someone shouted, you don't need to hear them shout to understand it. But with handheld consoles fading to obscurity and Pokémon games now being exclusively on consoles, the lack of voice acting is just unexplainable. I mean, these characters literally have voices being cast for the anime. If anything, it makes more sense to be able to hear them here than in most other games. This all reached a tipping point for me during Pokémon Sword and Shield, when meeting Pierce, who is a rock singer, and a cutscene plays before battling him of him singing. What is this? Why would you write this? It's not like it's customary for Pokémon games to have musical numbers in them. You decided that this thing, which you aren't able to convey, is happening. And they do this again in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Like, they're actively reminding us, hey, we don't have voice acting. Isn't that weird? It's often been said that, yeah, people aren't playing Pokémon games for their cutting-edge graphics. And to be fair, graphics aren't the be-all, end-all of what makes a good game. But I think a lot of Pokémon fans don't realize just how truly awful these games look. So let's zoom out and take a look. It's not really fair to compare handheld games running on very limited hardware to consoles, so we'll only stick to consoles. Here's Pokémon Stadium, released on the Nintendo 64 in the year 2000. Here's Mario Party 3 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which released the same year on the same console. And I'd say the differences are negligible. The models are still blocky, not very smooth animations, and they're a little janky. Jumping ahead to the next generation of consoles, here's Pokémon Colosseum, released in 2005 on the GameCube. And here's Super Mario Sunshine, released 3 years earlier. If you don't think it's fair to compare a side series game with a main series game, here's Mario Party 7, released the same year as Colosseum. And here's The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess, also for the GameCube. One generation later, here's Pokémon Battle Revolution for the Wii, released in 2007, and Super Mario Galaxy, released that same year. And here's The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, also on the Wii. And finally, the Switch era. Here's Pokémon Sword and Shield, released in 2019, and here's Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which both released 2 years prior. So while it's fun to point out an individual texture or graphical issue in any single entry to the Pokémon game series, when you zoom out on the last 2 decades of gaming history and compare it to its peers, what it shows is a developer who has simply stopped trying. And the reason they stopped trying is because they simply do not have to try. Many of Nintendo's popular franchises are called samey and formulaic. But when you compare a game made 20 years ago to one that was made recently, you can at least see attempts at keeping it modern, with experiments and mechanics that, even if they are done to tell what is essentially the same story, are at least giving fans a reason to come back, a reason to spend their time and money. Pokémon doesn't have to. They know that you want to catch and battle the latest Pokémon no matter how poorly the game they reside in looks or performs. Or at least they will, as long as you continue to buy them. The hardest part of walking away is always taking the first step. But it's a step that, with the release of Pokémon Legends ZA, I think I'm ready to take. And I know that in the grand scheme of things, it won't make a difference. This game will still sell like gangbusters, and the direction of the franchise won't change in the slightest. The games will probably not get any better. But for me, and maybe for some of you, our time and attention can finally go towards something more worthy of it. Thanks for watching.